episode number 3 of 49ers Redzone. Today, we are going to be breaking down the 49ers versus the Rams that happened this weekend. I'm Rohan, and here's my co host, Marco. So, 49ers versus Rams, that happened this weekend. Huge game because the 49ers were able to clinch a playoff spot and they were able to make it. And now they are the sixth seed in the wild card race. They're going to face the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's at 4:25 Eastern on Sunday. So, Marco, how excited are you for this game? Yeah. So against the Rams, essentially the 49ers showcased a lot of things. First, they were able to move the football effectively in the second half. Their defense was the key again. And so it was an all-around performance. And again, the 49ers showed how they're capable to beat any team in the NFC, in my opinion. I thought that they were top six talented team in the NFL. And I think that's going to be proven against in this playoff. The only thing that is really stopping the 49ers is they're going to have to face three straight road games if they want to win a Super Bowl. They got to go on the road in the wild card, on the road in the divisional round, on the road in the conference championship, and then they might get a home game because the Super Bowl is played at Inglewood Stadium this year. But Marco, quick thoughts first. What did you think about the Rams game this Sunday?
I thought it was a very interesting game. So we got down 17-0. That was very rough to get down. And then to fight back, how gritty the team was and how everything went and how the defense stepped up in the second half, even though in the first half, I've seen a lot of people on the timeline saying, oh, defense didn't do well. Well, defense played very, very good football in the first half. What happened is when you're on the field and your offense is getting the offense done, you're eventually going to give up points. So giving up 17 points in the first half was kind of hard to watch for the defense. But at the same time, they a few times they bended and they didn't break, and then they get the ball. They give more opportunities to that offense, and that's a good offense the 49ers just played. And the fact that they were able to do what they did against the Rams in the second half was incredible. I mean, to get, I believe it was 40% pressure rate on Matthew Stafford, to sack him about 5 times. You could tell that he was getting frustrated every time he got hit. You could just see it in his face, like he was getting up, he's starting to limp. Sorry, he already has a back issue that he was dealing with. He had a hip issue he was dealing with. So all those injuries that he's dealing with are in fact now because you're putting bodies on bodies, and it was very good to see guys outside of Nick Bosa, guys like Arik Armstead, step up and dominate the game. I'm glad to see the player that everyone loves to bash on the defensive line dominate the game. It was very, very beautiful to see. And then I know you asked me a question right before I cut out, but it's very good to see the 49ers play against the Cowboys. I mean, I have a lot of family members who are Cowboys fans. And it's already the trash talk has already started. It started as soon as the 49ers won and everything settled down and we knew who we were playing. And then I also have a lot of family members who are diehard Niner fans and they understand the rivalry. So it's right away as soon as the Niners won and we figured out we were playing the Cowboys. My dad texts me and he goes, "Wow, rivalry just like in the 80s and 90s." So it's very nice to hear like that rivalry come back. Even though I really like Dak Prescott. And this week I'm gonna have to hate him, but it's kind of hard to hate a guy like that. So it's gonna be a very, very interesting week. Hopefully we get that dub. I think we will. Let's just knock down that 49ers Rams real quick though.
Yeah. So 49ers Rams. We can start with Jimmy Garoppolo. What do you think? What did you think about his performance on Sunday?
I'll be 100% honest, Rohan. I thought the first half was very bad. I thought the first half was very, very bad in terms of he was missing reads, and I'd rather have him seeing those reads and actually attempting to throw them. And then he's making throws. So everyone kept saying, oh, his thumb is why he's not doing this. His thumb is the issue. His thumb was never the issue. I mean, you could see him make throws in the first couple drives, and he's pushing the ball downfield to Brandon Ayuk on one of the drives. So it's like, well, I don't see the thumb being the issue. And then he starts missing a couple reads where the hasty throw. I love the throw. I love the read. Yeah. That's where they wanted to go with it, but at the same time, it's like you have to realize that's a lot of people. That's a linebacker matchup on a running back. It's a good matchup.
Right, but you also had Brandon. it's Jermichael Hasty, who isn't really the most sure guy with his hands. Like you'd want him to work back to the football on that play rather than lean back and let the defender hit the ball out of his hands. I understand, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so they had Brandon Ayuk open on that route. So it was interesting to see how the 49ers offense looked very stagnant. It looked very weak. And I didn't like that to go into the game. And then into the second half, the 49ers picked it up and then they just started running the ball down their throat at will. And it was more of a 49er football that we're used to seeing. Kyle Shanahan take the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands, and then eventually he used his arm to win him the game. And that all started because of the run game. The run game was so effective that he was able to let Jimmy Garoppolo let it rip because he knew how they were going to play Jimmy Garoppolo in certain coverages and everything. And Jimmy Garoppolo executed in the second half. The first half, like I said, it was very bad. Everyone was probably calling for Trey Lance, calling for Kyle Shanahan's head. A lot of people were already doing that on the timeline. And then you see the big transition, running the ball, or actually getting the 3 points to end the half, and then start running the ball, get a touchdown. Defense gets a turnover. Stop, not a turnover, and then another turnover by Emmanuel Mosley that gave him the ball back. So there's a lot of things that started going the Niners' way, and when that happened, I saw a different Jimmy Garoppolo. You see a very confident Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of who he knows he is. You see him step up and be that guy. So when he threw his 2 interceptions, he just smiled it off. He just shook it off. And for me, I was like, man, like, don't tell me he's gonna lose us this game. Like I really thought he was gonna lose us this game. I'm like, well, that's Jimmy. Jimmy played bad today. And then next thing you know, he just starts lighting it up. So it was very interesting. I don't think his thumb is an issue, so I don't think we don't have to worry about anything going into this week with the Dallas Cowboys, which is a good thing.
Right. And I thought, we got the entire Jimmy Garoppolo experience, right? We got him going at his ultimate lows where he's throwing into triple coverage against Jalen Ramsey of all people rather than hitting the check down, who was Shawan Jennings on that second interception. But we get the highs, which is this comeback moment in the fourth quarter with under a minute and 30 seconds remaining with no timeouts, and you get a touchdown. And so what I kind of like about Jimmy Garoppolo going into this game, I remember one of the 49er reporters were tweeting right at the beginning of this game, it's like Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't even have a thumb injury. Like just 2 weeks ago, we found out that this man has a torn UCL. We hear from doctors that Jimmy Garoppolo should not be able to throw a football for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and he should probably require surgery. And that's what had us all questioning, right? Is this guy really going to be able to play? Because this injury, you're not supposed to be able to throw the ball. Somehow this guy comes out, throws in practice for 2 days this week, not even taking off practice to see if he can go in the game. Throws twice, and then he comes into this game. He has a shaky performance for sure, but he leads us to a victory. And when you're going to the playoffs, I think that's the one thing that matters. When you look at Jimmy Garoppolo's performance overall, in the first half, yeah, it struggles. Sure, some of it's on the quarterback for sure, right? Some of it, a lot of, you had a couple of the missed throws. You see sometimes he's afraid to throw the ball. You saw all those things, and you're like, do we really attribute that to Garoppolo's injury? And, I know a lot of people were saying this is on Kyle Shanahan because, this is he has to take Garoppolo out of the game because he's injured. But also you see these kind of mistakes, mental mistakes from Garoppolo when he's not injured. So you wonder, one thing I was wondering going into this game, anytime Jimmy Garoppolo makes a mistake, are people going to attribute it to that injury, or are they going to attribute it because he makes that mistake? And so that's something interesting because a lot of people were attributing it to the injury early on, especially after that first interception. But then I think the turning point in this game going a little away from Garoppolo was when Arik Armstead and Nick Bosa combined for that sack on 3rd and 1 with, I think it was under a minute left in the second quarter. That led to the field goal. You make it 17-3 and you get the ball coming out of half. And that's where the 49ers offensively just started hitting it in the second half, going touchdown. They get the ball back, another touchdown. So I liked the performance. I thought it was gutsy. Definitely not an A performance for me. I thought it was more of a B minus performance, but it was a gutsy performance, and it got us the win.
It's funny that you say that, how you didn't know if people were going to credit Jimmy Garoppolo's thumb and injury being the reason for the bad play. So I actually had tweeted mid-game. I was like, if y'all blame Kyle, I'm going to laugh and log off for a few days. He had them and had them in a position to win. Jimmy was making throws he normally makes and normally misses the thumb didn't look like an issue on throws. Stupid reads looked like the problem, and that came after the second interception to Jalen Ramsey. When
Right.
he had the 49ers. Actually, we had the 49ers. It was tied up. I believe it was 17-17.
It was 17, and we were in their red zone. Yeah.
Yeah, we were right there in the red zone, and so I actually got sent that tweet off right after the interception, and people were like, "Oh, that's Kyle Shanahan's fault." Well, no. If you look at the play, Jawan Jennings is wide open.
Wide open.
That's just a read that Jimmy Garoppolo was forcing to George Kittle. He forces it to George Kittle a lot. He forces it to Debo a lot, and those are things that Jimmy Garoppolo has a tendency to do. If he locks onto one target and doesn't ever take his eyes off him, and it brings the throw to Jackrabbit Jenkins against the Titans.
Right.
When he should have never thrown it to George Kittle. Probably should have got rid of it, thrown it away or something, and instead he makes an interception in the red zone. It's a similar situation. We had the probability of winning that game without going to overtime. Instead, they get an interception. I don't believe they score with that interception. They might have scored.
They actually – so it was 17-17. We threw the interception. They actually did score. I forget. That was the one drive in the second half where they got over 15 yards. That was the 92-yard drive where they ended up scoring, going up 24-17 with about, I think, 5 minutes remaining in the game. Yeah. Or no. Actually, no. They started with around like 7. This was like they scored, and then it was like under 3 minutes in the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that was frustrating to watch because, like, Kyle Shanahan, the defense – like, they had everyone in a situation to win the game without going to overtime. And then that interception happens. It's like, and then everyone's blaming Kyle. It's like, well, why are you blaming Kyle? Kyle literally has dialed up a couple beautiful drives where Jimmy literally just had to hit the wide open guys. And then he has to make an easy read with high to low. You go from Kittle, you go straight down to Jennings, and you just got to make that read. And you got to throw it to Jennings. Jennings probably gets to the 2-yard line. If not, he scores. With how well Jennings was playing and how he was getting yards after contact and yards after the catch Sunday, you have to hit Jennings and allow your rookie, or shouldn't say rookie because he's not a rookie, he's a second-year player, but first year actually getting some running. You have to allow your guys to do what they do. And that's where I felt Jimmy Garoppolo played poorly, but at the same time, when you have the guts to gut it out and you do what you did in the end of the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, and into overtime, I have to give you your credit. He did play well outside of the first half and the interception in the red zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an up and down. Like I said, it's like a B minus type of performance, given the clutch factor, given how he was dealing with an injury and all. But, again, it's not like a spectacular performance. But the good thing about this 49ers team, you do not need spectacular quarterback play to win games. We've seen that multiple times because what is this 49er team predicated on? An offensive line that is able to create for the run game, and the run game that is able to create simple enough looks for the quarterback. And when the quarterback executes those looks, it only expands the run game and it makes the offense a lot more prolific. But we've won in spite of the quarterback. We've won with the help of the quarterback multiple times this season. And most importantly, we have a defense that is likely better than our offense despite the talent on offense because of the coaching scheme and because of how the defensive unit works together. We have a top 3 defense, or I guess we can say top 5 to be fair, top 3 in total defense in the NFL this year. And that is what allows us to be this way offensively. And that's what allows us, I guess, allows Kyle Shanahan to utilize different schemes to prioritize the run game, but also find out ways to prioritize the passing game that works to Jimmy Garoppolo's strengths. Because in this game, I know you've seen this, you saw the chart, right? Jimmy Garoppolo threw to all facets of the field. He threw, it's crazy because normally he only throws, you've seen the charts where it's inside the numbers only.
Oh, yeah.
It's either behind the line of scrimmage or inside the numbers. Garoppolo threw to kind of all facets of the field in this game. And that's just Kyle Shanahan creating open looks, getting him open looks, and getting receivers in positions to make plays. I thought that this was one of Kyle Shanahan's best coached games offensively. I know it wasn't great execution early on, but I thought a lot of people were blaming him for putting Jimmy Garoppolo still in the game. I thought he created the looks. Execution happened in the second half. And for a defense to consistently hold teams to a low scoring total, like this game, it was 24 points. I think Rob Guerrero pointed out that if the 49ers held this team to 24 points, we are able to win. And against the Texans, it was 7 points, against the Titans.
Yeah.
it was only 17 points or 20 points. They've been able to hold teams to low scoring points. And with this prolific offense, I think that we're able to, be able to compete with any team in the NFL. And that's why we're so powerful. Zach says, how confident are you guys on this Cowboys game? Marco, you first.
So I actually think the 49ers are going to win by 5 points. I'm very confident in this game. And the reason why I'm confident in this game goes back to the 49ers run game and also the Dallas Cowboys run defense. So the 49ers have one of the best run offenses in the NFL. And the Dallas Cowboys allow 4.5 rushing yards per attempt, which is 23rd in the NFL.
Right.
The Dallas Cowboys rank like top 5 in the NFL in defense, overall defense. I believe they're like number 2 or 3.
They might be second in DVOA. That's what I saw.
I want to say they're second in DVOA, and like that's number 2 against the pass, and then like number 16 against the run.
Exactly.
Yeah, something like that. And then the Cowboys have given their run defense is 25th in explosive runs allowed. So I think that's one of those situations where you have to just run the ball down their throat and then utilize Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of being efficient. A lot of time, it's weird because Jimmy Garoppolo is an efficient quarterback, but he's not consistent. So he is efficient, but he's not consistent. Yeah, that's the key word. He's not consistent enough to be efficient for a long time throughout the game.
Right.
So they need Jimmy Garoppolo to be efficient in spurts. So when the defense is playing lights out and the offense is humming, he needs to be efficient. He needs to attack Van Der Esch, he needs to attack Keanu Neal. Those are 2 linebackers that I don't think they're great. I don't think they're good linebackers in my opinion.
And I think Keanu Neal more than Van Der Esch, but yeah, I agree.
I think they're both subpar linebackers, and I think
they're both like at least Keanu Neal. I feel like he's more like a run defender rather than like a guy in pass coverage, and especially over the middle. That's what you want to attack.
You're actually right because Keanu Neal was a very inside the box safety before he converted to linebacker. So it was one of those ones where I would attack those linebackers as much as possible, and you have to eliminate Micah Parsons. I don't care about Trevon Diggs. Yeah. People hype up Trevon Diggs like he's an elite corner, but honestly, he's had like I text Javier Vega earlier. I said Trevon Diggs is having one of the worst cornerback seasons of all time
because he's giving up over 1,000 in coverage.
Yeah, so he's giving up all these yards in coverage. He has a lot of penalties in coverage, but he also has 11 interceptions. So everyone's like, "Oh, he's a shutdown corner." Well, no, he's not. He's nothing close to being shut down. Like shutdown corners, they don't give up many yards, but they also don't get many interceptions because people don't target them. He's being targeted, so he's getting interceptions. That's where the flaw with Trevon Diggs is. He is giving up a lot of yards.
I agree. I think I'm fairly confident with the Cowboys game. I won't go as far as to put a 5-point advantage over the Cowboys yet, but I think that the 49ers just work well against them. The Cowboys, where is their strength? Defensively, that's their pass rush. That's with Micah Parsons. But the 49ers have found ways, especially when they're not in drop back sets. Zach says it here, RPO and PA play action should be a huge factor. I agree, because that's what's going to eliminate this pass rush from making huge huge plays in this game. Because play action, that's going to get the ball out quick from Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. He also has the ability to get the ball out quick. And I think Shanahan's going to figure out ways to get the receivers open. Like Trevon Diggs, right? He's a ball hawk. That's what he looks for. He looks for interceptions. But he also will get lost in coverage a good amount of times. I know he's one of the worst in terms of open catches. I know he's one of the worst ranks, I think, out of 150 receivers qualified or corners qualified. He's one of the worst ranks. So in Kyle Shanahan, that's what his preference is: getting receivers open, getting them in space, and getting them able to make plays. So I think that play action definitely to get receivers open. You're going to see a lot of the schemes that you saw against the Rams, in that there's going to be a lot of motion to move the line around, and that's how they're going to get these easy matchups. And also one other thing. Opposite of Trevon Diggs, who is it? Anthony Brown? I think Anthony Brown is he's not been a great corner. I know, there was.
I think he's been better than just to cut my back to cut you off. He's been better than Trevon Diggs.
I think he's been good. I don't think he's been great though, and I think that the 49ers can also find ways to exploit him in coverage as well. I know a lot of people will point at the game where he had 4 penalties. I remember he's not a normal guy that gives up a lot of penalties, but I think the corners aren't really Dallas' strength in this game, and I think the 49ers definitely can exploit it. Defensively versus this offense, Dallas, in my opinion, they're a nice passing offense, but I think the passing game also revolves around the run game. And with the 49ers' strength, to attack the run game with the way that they do, it's going to be hard for Dallas because they're going to have a lot of third and longs in this game, or they're going to be forced to pass a lot. And I know Dak Prescott definitely has the ability to pass them a good amount. They also have a lot of good wide receivers on that team, and CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, and Cedric Wilson is not a slouch at wide receiver number 3. But I think the way that we can match up, especially if everyone's healthy, and the way that we have fresh legs coming back in the running back position with Trey Sermon being activated from IR, I think that we're in good position to at least compete in this game. And quickly, another comment. I don't know if y'all mentioned, but any word on the Silverback or the Shark playing this week?
They should be good to go. From what I've heard, they should be good to go. Trent Williams he's going to do everything he can to play, and he will play. I mean, last game.
It's Trent. Yeah. I think Trent, he said he wouldn't practice today, but I believe, or today, today's Tuesday.
Tomorrow.
Right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow. He wouldn't practice tomorrow. But I think both should be good to go. Yeah.
Yeah, both should be good to go.
Yeah. But going back to the Rams game, let's talk about one of our favorite topics because we've been hyping him up. You've been on it for the entire year. I joined the wave once he started playing consistent football, or once he started being a starter. This is Ambry Thomas. How did you like his performance Sunday?
So I felt like Ambry Thomas, I shouldn't say struggled in the first half, but he had a couple plays that he would want back. I believe the touchdown to the first touchdown to Higbee. I don't know what they were in. I have to go back and watch. I mean, I've been so busy with my car broke down. I've been so busy at work and everything, so I've been able to watch film. But it looked like he should have had Higbee because he was the outside guy, and I was his guy.
It was like I think it was a zone look too, so he probably should have had the outside guy.
He probably should have had the outside guy. I also don't really know what they were in, so I can't 100% say. It could have been Tart, who was actually up to the line of scrimmage, and it looked like Ambry was coming to get the running back going out of the backfield. So it was one of those ones where it could have been Ambry Thomas, who should have had Higbee, and on the second touchdown, Higbee and Matthew Stafford connected on a great throw, a great catch. Tip your hat to that guy. That guy gets paid too. So does that quarterback. That was a perfect throw. And in the second half, they tried targeting Ambry Thomas, but they really weren't connecting on anything. And then Ambry Thomas made them pay. Like I said, Rohan, didn't I say on the last episode, Ambry Thomas
he was going to get a pick. He was going to get a pick. Maybe one episode too late, but he got that pick. So it's all good.
It was funny because on the last episode, we had previewing the Titans game. I said
Texans game.
The Texans game. I said it was an interception, and then like the night before, Saturday night, I was on Niner Nate's Twitter space, and I had said I'm very confident that he's going to get an interception this year, or not this year, tomorrow. And they're like, "Oh, that's a bold take." I was like, "No, I'm very confident they're gonna target him with OBJ and guys like that." Yeah. So I'm very glad to see a guy like Ambry Thomas to do work. Shout out to his mom. I talked to his mom a lot. She said that we haven't seen shit from her son yet, and he's a very confident kid, very humble. So I look forward to seeing what he brings to this team, and you can see the confidence in him. You can see him at the podium having that swagger. And he even said, "I knew when I was ready." Like, I knew when I had a couple interceptions in practice. I looked over to John Lynch and said, "I'm back from a year off." And I had been saying that for a long time, that year off he had from the illness he had onto the
35-pound loss.
Yeah, 35-pound loss, and then onto the year he didn't play. Like, those are two things that it's hard to come back from, and people don't realize that these players are humans. They go through a lot mentally, physically, and at the end of the day, when I saw that, and I had read up on him, and I was doing my scouting report on him after they drafted him, and I was like, oh, this kid's gonna be a late bloomer because of all that. And sure enough, he's finally into his own, and that confidence he has is what a number one corner needs. He didn't have that extreme confidence. I don't want to say he's a number one corner yet, but he's on his way. His trajectory is on that way. If we look at every single game, he's only gone up, and it could only keep going up, man.
And I agree. I remember after the Cincinnati game, I believe, I went out and I tweeted, because Ambry Thomas, he got like mossed a couple of times by Jamar Chase, or not mossed, but he was like outplayed by Jamar Chase in that game. But I tweeted out after that game, Ambry Thomas is going to start in 2022 for this team. And I still believe that, because what I saw from Ambry Thomas, like a lot of people were saying it, he's in position. And in this game, I didn't even care about the interception. The most important part to me was on that throw from Matthew Stafford to end this game, Ambry Thomas was step in step with Odell Beckham Jr.
He was.
The crazy thing is, when you have better like when you look back at the ball and you were able to track it better than Odell Beckham Jr., that is saying something because he was step in step. Not only that, he looked back, identified that the ball was thrown short, and then he caught the interception. I thought that was crazy ball play from Ambry Thomas, and the ability to stay in bounds, that was good. And I think it was a learning experience because in the first half, he wasn't as stout as he's been, at least as he was last week and the week before that. But I thought he definitely rebounded in the second half. He was able to win, and then in the post game presser, I was just so happy just seeing the swagger, like you said, and the confidence that he brought. He's like, "Yeah, this is my time. This is like, and it is his time because he's about to go against playoff caliber wide receivers, and yeah, he needs to bring that confidence because he's going to be ready to play, and I think I'm fairly confident that he's going to be a starter next year." Zach said Ambry and Lenore is going to be CB1 and 2 next year. I think Ambry will be. I don't know about Lenore. I don't even think Lenore starts next year because K1 Williams probably gets brought back, but we'll see.
I think K1. I only said no. I only disagree with you and said no because I think K1 gets paid somewhere. He's gonna get paid, and I think he's gonna get a good enough contract. Because if you look at K1, he locks up in the slot, and I think Lenore was drafted to play in the slot, and I think they're gonna have They'll have Emmanuel Mosley outside. Emmanuel Mosley had a hell of a season. I mean, he's one of the most underrated players on the team in terms of the kind of season he's had. He'll go outside, and then they'll have Ambry Thomas on the opposite side. And that's a great tandem to have because you could teach zone eyes, and I think Ambry Thomas will get better in zone. But at the end of the day, I think DeMeco Ryans wants to be impressed man. I think he wants to be up in your face and disrupt the timing of routes and throw quarterbacks off. And if you look at the route that Ambry Thomas intercepted, I want to say Matthew Stafford was trying to throw a back shoulder throw. So usually when quarterbacks see that a receiver and a corner are running stride for stride, they usually try to hit a back shoulder throw on the corner because to hit him over the top is a lot harder than hit a back shoulder throw. Exactly. And I think he might have tried to hit a back shoulder throw, but like I had told one of my buddies, I said I would rather have them try to beat us with OBJ because that chemistry isn't there yet. You could see that the chemistry with Stafford and OBJ isn't there, and I would rather have them attack OBJ with whoever they want. And they ended up paying off because if you look at it, OBJ thought the ball was going deep. He was still running when Ambry Thomas broke off. So it was good to see. I love the turnaround on Ambry Thomas' season he has had, and I love the confidence he has, and I hope he continues to stride. If you look at the players he's played against guys like Julio Jones,
Jamar Chase, Jones, AJ
Brown.
Now
OBJ, Cooper Kupp. He's matched up on a guy a couple times. So you played against some
the worst player he's played against is Russell Gage, who is wide receiver number 1 in Atlanta, apart from Kyle Pitts. So it's not like he's not faced like a good amount of talent on this team.
Yeah, he's faced good receivers, and I think that's prepared him for the the playoffs. I was about to say the college football play. As what happened last night. But he's ready for the playoffs. And you can see he's that confidence with him. So I'm excited for him moving forward. We also got to give a shout-out to the defensive coordinator, DeMeco Ryans, who's giving the young kid all the confidence in the world. So shout-out to DeMeco.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely, because you've seen how DeMeco is kind of like just put a lot of energy in this team. Like this team is playing with a lot of confidence, a lot of energy, and the leaders are stepping up. Jimmy Ward, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, all of these guys are stepping up, and Ark Armstead for sure at the right time. And it's great because you need a peak going into the playoffs, and that's what this team is doing. I think that especially with all this entire team coming back and they're all healthy with Diamador Lenore being activated from the COVID list, I think we're coming back and we're as healthy as we ever have been, which is important against this Cowboys team. And going into there, it's going to be interesting because the Cowboys-49ers rivalry, you've seen it. And now we might go from a situation where we dominated in terms of fan base at SoFi Stadium. Don't think that will be the case down there in Dallas. But if we can handle that crowd, we can handle any crowd, really.
Well, I mean, even with the crowd that we've had travel to Dallas before, I think it's going to be a good size turnaround for the 49ers fans in Dallas. So I think it's going to be a very even crowd from 49er fans to Cowboy fans.
Right. You brought up DeMeco Ryans and how he was good. recently a report came out that Mike McDaniel, the 49ers offensive coordinator, was requested for a job with the Miami Dolphins. What do you think about those two, the two coordinators, and their prospects at the next level as a head coach?
So last year when they promoted Mike McDaniel's and LaFleur left with Robert Saleh, I had tweeted out that one of them should be promoted, and whichever one should be promoted is the guy that Kyle Shanahan appreciates or adores more. Because if not, the Miami Dolphins were going to hire them as their OC. Um, they interviewed, or they were trying to get an interview with them, or whatever the case may be. I forgot how it went down. And then next thing you know, Mike McDaniel was promoted, and then LaFleur left with Robert Saleh. So I think both of those. I think Mike McDaniel's is a head coach material. He has had not the opportunity to call plays, so that kind of makes it a little bit worse. It makes it a little bit harder to become a head coach in terms of what have you done for your team. Yeah, you're the coordinator, but what do you do in terms of game planning, calling plays? I heard he influences Kyle Shanahan a lot. And Kyle Shanahan has kind of talked about it in meetings. He's kind of said how Mike McDaniel's sometimes he'll call up and he'll call down. Well, hey, this is what you should. Next play is what you should look at. They're running a lot of this. Like, look at this section of the playbook, whatever. And it helps Kyle Shanahan a lot. So I think Mike McDaniel eventually will become a head coach. I think eventually he will. I don't think he'll ever call plays, but I think eventually he'll get that respect and that opportunity to be given a head coaching gig. So if you look at guys who haven't called plays, like a guy like Eric Bieniemy right now, who's with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah,
I don't believe he calls plays. I believe Andy Reid calls
Andy
plays.
Reid, I think so.
But a guy like Eric Bieniemy, he should definitely be hired to be a head coach. He's worked around Andy Reid for a while now, so he should be a head coach. So kind of like similar. I'm giving the parallels of not calling plays with Mike McDaniels and Eric Bieniemy. D'Amico Ryans, I believe he'll be a head coach in if not this. I don't think he'll be a head coach this year. I give him 2 to 3 years to be a head coach, and I think he's going to be a very good head coach. He is a very well liked coach. He knows how to adjust mid game. He knows how to game plan. What he's done with the secondary that we've had this year and all the injuries we've had on the defense, and what he's provided as a defensive coach, I think is one hell of a job. I think I give him an A+ on what he's done with this defense. So he eventually will be a head coach, and I think he's going to be a very good head coach.
Interesting. Mike McDaniel first. I think that I find like coaches like Mike McDaniel very interesting because they are Mike McDaniel specifically. He is most involved with the run game, and that's what the 49ers have been predicated on for the last couple of years, right? That's how they've valued their offenses kind of since the Shanahan era started. And Shanahan also has been a huge run game guy, especially like even when you had Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman had a 1,000-yard season on very good efficiency. So it's not like the relationship has been there for a while for both of them. So I find it like when you have a guy like Mike McDaniel with such a run game preference, I think it really just depends on the system that he puts it in. Because Mike McDaniel's worked with nothing, right? I mean, it's not that it's nothing.
Yeah.
You've worked with undrafted players rather than and you've worked with all these different types of players to just utilize what they're best at and figure out how to run very efficiently. So when you have a guy like that, I think you're right. I don't know if he calls plays because he's kind of like the brains behind the plan when you have another guy who calls plays, and that's where a new chain starts. But I think also I don't know how Mike McDaniel is going to operate like in game time situations, right? Because every time we see Mike McDaniel, he's kind of up in the booth or something like that. It's not like we've seen him in a game time situation type of guy. So that's kind of like the part where I probably question the most. Although obviously the only way you're going to figure it out is through experience. And then with D'Amico Ryans, I think that D'Amico Ryans definitely probably is more of a head coach, just given the attitude that he kind of brings in, be it with pressers, be it on the field. I think he definitely instills a good attitude in his player, kind of like a Brian Flores, who was unjustly fired. But D'Amico Ryans, I think he kind of brings that attitude. My only thing on D'Amico Ryans, and it's not on D'Amico Ryans, but rather on defensive coaching all around, with the NFL being so offensive predicated and with so many offense, like a lot of these teams that are firing players have young quarterbacks. Like we've seen Chicago, we've seen all these teams. And I personally last year, I didn't think that the Los Angeles Chargers should have hired Brandon Staley because Justin Herbert is going into his second year. You want to just maximize his potential. And when you have a guy like Brandon Staley this year, guess what? Then you have to leave it to Joe Lombardi. And Joe Lombardi was not calling plays well. He calls a lot of checkdowns for Justin Herbert, who's got a lot of arm strength. He doesn't utilize all three facets of the field. He kind of just says, Herbert, go do your thing. And like, if he had a good coordinator, he'd be able to get players open, because you see a lot of the times receivers are not open, and you have a guy like Keenan Allen, which I find I just don't like that kind of part about Joe Lombardi. And I also don't like how he doesn't utilize Herbert's running skills along with like to complement Austin Eckler. I think that he's not valuing Justin Herbert a lot. And that's kind of like the thing that I see with defensive coaches, right? Like, I think Vic Fangio is a very good defensive coach. I think he's going to be a very good defensive coordinator wherever he goes. You've seen things like Vic Fangio, Dan Quinn. He's been a very good defensive coordinator this year. And although he wasn't great in his last couple of years in Atlanta, you see all these defensive coordinators becoming head coaches. But I think since the NFL is so offensive predicated, I just find it hard for a defensive head coach to kind of find his footing. We just saw Brian Flores get fired, even though Miami's defense was like doing really well. I'd assume it probably has to do with the quarterback, even though Brian Flores is not really that related to the quarterback. It's the offensive coordinator. So like you see these coaches kind of being blamed for offensive struggles because that's where kind of the NFL is looked at. Joe Judge got fired too, and the New York Giants struggle on offense. They don't struggle as much on defense. You see what I mean? Like there's this parallel. So I think that defensive coordinators, defensive head coaches are kind of like viewed unfairly in the NFL, which is why I find it a little harder for DeMeco Ryans to it'll be a little harder for DeMeco Ryans to find his footing. But if it's a guy, it's like a guy like DeMeco Ryans or Robert Saleh, who kind of instills this kind of like energy in their players. It's just all up to game time decisions. Yeah.
So I super agree with what you're saying about defensive coaches and everything, because when you have a franchise quarterback like Justin Fields or Justin Herbert, where you go out and you draft that franchise guy, you want to have an offensive minded coach, because now instead of, if you have a defensive minded coach and let's say that quarterback is so good that every couple of years he's losing his offensive coordinator because these organizations are firing these teams and they're going after that offensive coach, then that means he's going to have a new offensive coordinator every few years, learning a new playbook every few years. So why not just keep a offensive-minded head coach and allow them to build? So I love what you're saying there, and I think that's why Mike McDaniels will eventually be a head coach one day, because someone's going to be like, wow, he knows Kyle Shanahan's playbook. He knows it from the back, like the back of his hand. Exactly. We should hire him. Like, there's going to be that owner who says that. And
you've seen it from the Sean McVay. Like, Sean McVay, wow. And then Zach Taylor gets hired. I forget the offensive coordinator, whoever it is right now. I forget his name. He's also being put into head coach considerations. But yeah,
exactly. So like there's a lot of parallels for Mike McDaniels to become a head coach. Now, if you are a DeMeco Ryans or a Brian Flores or Vic Fangio, and you don't have a good quarterback, that's where your defense has to be legit. And I think Vic Fangio was fired unjustly as well too. I mean, when you have that good of a defense. Yeah. And you don't have a quarterback, and you're playing the quarterback carousel because they don't get their defensive coordinator a quarterback, like that's not his fault. That's a GM. Right. That's John Elway's fault for a couple of years in a row, not getting a competent quarterback, having Teddy Bridgewater and guys like that. So defensive coordinators do pay the price. Hopefully, both of our coaches do get promoted to eventually to a head coach. So they're doing a hell of a job with the 49ers right now, though.
Yeah, and speaking of, I guess, coordinators or people getting hired, one guy that we've been on this week, you brought it up, I think, Monday, yesterday or Sunday. Mm-hmm. That is assistant GM Adam Peters. And Adam Peters recently got a request for an interview from the New York Giants to be their GM. First, give your thoughts on the situation and what you think the 49ers should do with Adam Peters.
So I tweeted out saying 49ers should promote Adam Peters to GM and then promote a guy like John Lynch to president of football operations. He's technically right now he's the general manager, but if you look at it, the true scout, the true GM in that building is Adam Peters. He's a scout through and through. He came up the ranks with the New England Patriots, went over to the Denver Broncos, and now he's with us. And if you look at John Lynch, he's more of a business media guy, but he's also a good scout. I mean, he has scouted a few good players. But I would rather have you keep those two guys very close to each other. John Lynch can still do everything he's doing. Adam Peters is able to bring in better players. He's gonna get more requests for interview requests. He last year he had a couple interviews. I believe he's gonna get a couple more incoming. If the 49ers don't promote him, I think he should be hired by a team. I think he will be hired by a team. When you look at his track record on guys that are connected to who he has drafted, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Elijah Mitchell, Ambry Thomas,
Exactly.
a lot of guys on the 49ers who are making a big impact on the 49ers right now, he was connected to. Just being connected to guys like those, like George Kittle's, Fred Warner's, like two guys like that, you have two all-pro players that you're connected to in the last couple years. Mm-hmm. What team would not be excited to have two all-pros in the last 5 years, drafting-wise? Like that is a hell of a resume to have on your resume. So I think he will be promoted eventually to GM. I don't know if it's going to be with the 49ers or with another organization, but he's going to be a good GM. He's through a scout through and through, and I think those kind of GMs make very, very good GMs.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that he should be promoted to GM for the 49ers, have John Lynch be the president, but also have both of them kind of be in this scouting kind of situations and help around with the draft and everything like that. Because Adam Peters is definitely valuable. And I think one thing to think about with Adam Peters scouts to this system. So I think the one thing that when we think about Adam Peters, if Adam Peters goes, I think Mike McDaniel will go as well, which is why a job like New York, where Joe Judge just got fired, seems a lot more enticing. Or a job like I forget. I don't think Peters has been requested elsewhere, but like I think he can definitely bring a head coach along with him. Because obviously GMs and head coaches need to have that relationship. And so it depends, because Peters definitely scouts for this type of system, and he scouts very well for this type of system. We've seen a lot of players where Peters is kind of pointed out 49ers and their staff is being able to develop them. So I think if he is to remain with the 49ers, we probably have to promote him to GM so we don't lose him. So it depends on if we do that in the offseason. I don't know if Peters goes this year or next year. I'm not sure. But I think in the soon future, if the 49ers choose not to promote him to GM, he probably gets a job elsewhere.
And ideally, I think Adam Peters would prefer to stay with the 49ers. It's his hometown team. He's from the area. No, I believe he would want to stay here. You can't pass up a one-time opportunity to be a GM of an organization. And like you said, it would be a nice pairing with a guy like DeMeco Ryans or Mike McDaniel, who if they were to like all go together, he scouts for the system and he likes to hear what the coaches are looking for, and he finds you guys like that. So it's a very good scout, a very good GM eventually. I'm glad to see him getting the shine he's getting right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that we have a lot of I think in the next couple of years, people have seen, especially after this season, how successful this Shanahan kind of scheme can be in the NFL. Because obviously the last couple of years, the 49ers have played with subpar talent at quarterback, with Garoppolo being injured for the last 2 years, essentially. Not last two, but this year and then 3 years ago with the ACL. So they've been able to go play well with subpar level quarterbacks. And now with an adequate enough quarterback, you've seen how this offense can go to the next level, it's going to kind of start a new tree, just like Sean McVay did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's very exciting, man. Very exciting times to have guys like that. Yeah. It just shows your organization is deep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving on, just quick preview of the Dallas Cowboys game. What are your keys to defeating the Dallas Cowboys?
I have a couple keys. Run the ball down their throat. Special teams needs to be very good. Mm-hmm. And defensively, I think you got to just stop the run. If you stop the run, Dak loves playing off the play action. I'd rather see Dak have to drop back and throw than him being play action Dak, because play action Dak, in my opinion, is a better quarterback and it's for every quarterback. It goes for every quarterback, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier to defend a quarterback when he has to drop back versus when he has the threat of the run and the play actions there. I think the reason why you got to run the ball down their throat is because you have to keep it away from a quarterback like Dak Prescott and the weapons he has. So you have to keep it away. But also, that's their worst strength on their entire team. Their their
The
defensive
run defense.
run game is very bad, and you have to attack those linebackers. And I think it would be very smart for Kyle to get Keanu Neal or a guy like Leighton Vander Esch. I was trying to say Lander Vander Esch. Leighton Vander
Mhm.
Esch. Matched up on a guy like Juice or George Kittle on a leak route, on one of those routes that he loves to run, those concepts, and you
Right.
have to hit it because those two guys in pass coverage are awful. They're very awful. They're very bad.
Right.
In run defense, they're not that good. So it's one of those ones where those linebackers are going to be the key to the game, and we've seen what Jimmy Garoppolo has done to bad linebacking cores. We've seen what Kyle Shanahan does to bad linebacking cores. Van Der Esch is going to get hit on an end around to Deebo Samuel where he looks lost. I already see it similar to Blake Martinez when Kyle Shanahan was picking on him with the Packers and he
Right.
was picking on him with not so long ago when he played the Giants as well. He will pick on Van Der Esch and Keanu Neal. Just how it is. And then you'll probably mention it. Micah Parsons. You have to hold Micah
Yeah.
Parsons to a limited factor in this game because he will wreck a game plan. He will wreck a game. He is that good as a rookie. He is that good. So I hope they slide everything to him. I think we win. There's not much in me that is worried about this game, honestly, and it's because I think we match up very well against this Cowboys team.
Yeah, I agree because when we look at the Cowboys team, you kind of nailed it in that first of all, running down their throat, that's kind of like what's gonna put them off the field, which is where they're the biggest threat. Offensively is where they're the biggest threat, despite what the DVOA numbers say. I think that's where you're gonna try and keep them off the field. That's how you have these long drives. It's going to be a grit and grind type of playoff performance. And I kind of compare this kind of matchup to how the 49ers approached week 10 against the Rams, where I think the Rams were a better run defense. So it might be a little easier to run the football. But the 49ers ran it 44 times for 156 yards. I think their yards per average, yards per run is definitely going to be a little higher than that game. So I think that they're going to have a little more success and probably score more points, or maybe not more points, but they're going to be more competitive. And I think that if they approach it that way, create pressure on Dak and eliminate the Dallas run game with CJ Jones and Arik Armstead up front, I think you're going to force Dak to drop back rather than be in play action where he excels the most. And you're going to take away a couple of plays in Kellen Moore's offensive playbook. And I think that if you're able to do that, you're able to limit the opportunities that Dallas has to score, along with a game plan that kind of sucks up chews up clock and kind of keeps the 49ers in control of time of possession. I think if you have those two facets, you limit the amount of opportunities that Dallas has to score the football. And if you limit that, especially in the playoffs, if one screw up happens on Dallas, it puts the 49ers in a favorable position. Obviously, the vice versa. If Jimmy Garoppolo throws picks, it also puts Dallas in a favorable position. But I think with the way that the 49ers are going to approach this game, be it a grit and grind game where they put Jimmy Garoppolo in favorable situations because of how their run game is going to be successful, like you said, if you can exploit the linebackers over the middle where Jimmy Garoppolo excels at, you're going to be able to expand your game offensively. You're going to be able to control the clock, and you're going to be able to limit Dallas's offensive opportunities. But the one key that you said that I think is really important is special teams, because special teams haven't really been a problem over the last 2 weeks. But if Mitch Wisnowski is not able to go, we probably are going to have a punter. And also, you're going to just, you want to limit the amount of missed field goals. You want to limit the amount of mistakes on special teams because you're already compared against a team with such high talent. You don't want to give them freebies, especially in the playoffs where every kind of possession matters. So I think special teams is definitely important where the 49ers, they might not have to win the situation, but they're at least going to have to be competitive special teams wise. And I think they've done a good job, at least last week, in terms of kickoff coverage, where they were able to stuff the Los Angeles Rams inside their own 25 multiple times. They got to continue that this week. And I think they have the capability to do so. I think Richard Hightower has kind of transformed that squad over the last few weeks, getting them ready in peak position for the playoffs.
And I think if Mitch Wisnowski can't go, it's a random name that's thrown out there that people are like, well, why would you say him? I think the 49ers should bring in Marquette King to work out. And
Marquette King would be so fun.
and only because like Marquette King could boom the shit out of balls, and I believe he should be in the NFL. I mean, outside of his unnecessary whatever flags he gets stupid taunting calls, whatever.
Yeah.
He got a lot of those, so that's why he's out of the league because no kicker, no kicker is worth getting those flags. But I think if you were to talk to him, if he had guys like Fred Warner around him, like a guy like Bosa who's like, hey, don't do nothing stupid, man. Like just boom the shit out of the ball, come celebrate towards the sideline, and you're good. I mean, I think it would be very beneficial if Mitch Wishnowsky can't go to have a guy who could boom the ball like Marquette King. But I think Mitch Wishnowsky should be good. I think he has concussion protocol, so he should get out of it by then. It's a very interesting game. The rivalry is back. I'm excited for it. I mean, my dad tells me about it. Obviously I'm not old enough for those days, but I have always hated the Cowboys. I've always known because I'm one of those young guys who you're probably like me, Rohan, where when I was younger, when I was playing football, and I've always been a huge Niner fan. I looked up the Niners history every single day growing up. So I know the history. I know what the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys rivalry is. I understand that we hate each other. I understand that we had to face each other to get into the Super Bowl many, many times. I understand what it takes when you have guys like Jerry Jones who are still talking about it. When you have a head coach like Kyle Shanahan who was talking about how he remembers week 3 when the 49ers got Deion Sanders and when the 49ers had to play the Dallas Cowboys. He understands this rivalry. And I think we're going to get the best version of Kyle Shanahan because of this rivalry. He understands that to him, this isn't a regular game. This is the rivalry he grew up with. This is who this is what molded Kyle Shanahan to become a head coach one day. And that's what people don't understand is all these little nuances to this rivalry is going to bring the best out of Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion. And I'm very excited for it because we get to witness the start of potentially a new rivalry because we look at Dak Prescott. We look at a guy like Trey Lance. Dak Prescott isn't going anywhere for the Dallas Cowboys. He'll be there for the next 10 plus years. We're hoping Trey Lance is here for the next 10, 15 years. We're going to be seeing each other in the playoffs a lot, in my opinion. I think we will be seeing each other when you have quarterbacks like that. You will see each other in the playoffs or potentially in regular season games that count towards the playoffs. So it's very good I believe we're starting a new rivalry with the Dallas Cowboys in terms of eras because the 80-90, that's a different era where this is a whole new era, a whole new time of football. I think this is a new rivalry with bad blood from the past.
I agree. I definitely agree. And I think one thing about the Cowboys, if we just transition 2 weeks back, the Cowboys played the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, I think their defense, the defense kind of schemed them perfectly because the Cowboys could only run the ball 17 times in that game as opposed to 39 throws. The Cowboys also only ran it for 2.6 yards per carry, which is fairly poor to their standards. And because they have to throw the ball so much as opposed to run, it minimizes the efficiency of their offense, where Dak Prescott only threw for 5.9 yards per attempt, which isn't really that great. He also only threw for 226 yards. So that kind of formula, if the 49ers can kind of use that same formula in this kind of instance, I forget who. I think someone also pointed out that Vic Fangio left like a breadcrumb for the 49ers if they were able to use it. I saw it on Twitter. But,
so what they did so sorry to stop you, but what Vic Fangio did was he ran a dime look at the Dallas Cowboys and he made it a lot harder to throw the ball. And so that's kind of what the 49ers did to the Los Angeles Rams. They ran a dime look at them and it worked. So I believe DeMeco Ryans is going to do the same thing, run a dime look and prevent the pass. But like you were saying with the defense in terms of stopping the run, I noticed the Dallas Cowboys have this tendency when they play teams who want to make it a slugfest rather than a shootout, they tend to back away. They tend to shy away from it. And it's kind of Mike McCarthy. If you look at Mike McCarthy's history, his teams tend to shy away from slugfests. So I think this is a perfect matchup for the 49ers.
Right. Yeah, definitely agree with that. And one other thing, I think offensively for the 49ers, Dan Quinn, his system relies on a lot of one high. And Kyle Shanahan, when you have a consistent type of defense rather than mixing up schemes and things like that, it just makes it so much easier for a guy like Kyle Shanahan to be able to scheme around it and to make up. Because really, in reality, you only need 3, 4, 5 plays. That puts you in scoring position. You're able to score. If you can just maximize the potential on those couple of plays, obviously it has to be executed well. Garoppolo has to hit a guy like Kyle Juszczyk on those 40-yard passes. But like if you can execute those 3, 4, 5 power plays that Kyle Shanahan schemes up, you're in good position because you're going to be able to score a lot. And against the Dallas Cowboys team, where they may struggle against this 49ers defensive scheme, it's going to be important for the 49ers to maximize the output, especially with this the setup that Kyle Shanahan gives them.
And what I think was very interesting is how Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan. I mean, obviously, Dan Quinn was the head coach when Kyle Shanahan was in Atlanta. So I guarantee you, Kyle Shanahan knows how to attack Dan Quinn. I mean, they got to see each other a lot in practice. They got to see each other in training camp. And usually, a lot of times, it's like, oh, my defense won that day. My offense won that day. Like, if you look at the 49ers, too, in training camp, defense won today, offense won today. It just goes out throughout the NFL. Like, you kind of gauge which side of the ball wins the day. And I guarantee you, Kyle Shanahan is going to have something out for Dan Quinn. Because if everyone remembers, the Falcons lost down 28-3 in the Super Bowl. So people blame Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan doesn't forget that. He does not forget that he got the blame, and Dan Quinn did not. When his defense had a 25-point cushion. The offense scored 28 points. When your offense scores 28 points, you shouldn't lose. The defense should do their part, and you should not lose. So Kyle Shanahan got the blame. He took the heat for Dan Quinn, in my opinion, because I don't remember anyone blaming Dan Quinn.
Right.
I think Kyle Shanahan will remember that, and I think he's going to take it to him.
Mm-hmm. And quickly before we end this, 49ers, if they pass the Dallas Cowboys, they likely face Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. How excited are you for that potential matchup? I don't want to get too far ahead, but if that happens, how excited would you be for that? Especially it being in Lambeau, not at Levi's.
See. I'm a football player. I'm an athlete. Let's take it one game at a time first. The athlete in me, that's what I would say. But as a fan, I would say I'm excited for that matchup as well. I really am, because it's one of those games where we had them on their heels. They shouldn't have beat us.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if the 49ers see Green Bay and Lambeau, I guarantee you they come away with the win, only because what happened in the beginning of the season, week 3. They have that as bulletin material, and I guarantee you we would come away with the win. I would put money. I'm not a bettor. I don't bet money, but I would put a lot of money the 49ers come away with the win if they end up playing in Lambeau in the divisional round.
Okay. And last question before we wrap this up. Talent-wise, do you think the 49ers are a top 5 team in the NFL? Talent-wise.
Oh yeah, talent-wise, they definitely are a top 5 team in the NFL, in my opinion. I think they have the talent to be in the top 5. Now it all depends on quarterback situation. Quarterback, in my opinion, is the biggest position on the team that elevates you from being top 5 or bottom top 10. And it all depends on what Jimmy Garoppolo shows up. If good Jimmy shows up, they're definitely a top 5 team. If bad Jimmy shows up, they're in the top 10, maybe the 12, because quarterback is that important to the NFL. But when you look at guys like Elijah Mitchell, they have the running back. You look at the offensive line, they have the left tackle. They have a good center. Their offensive line talent-wise isn't great all the way across. But when you have a guy like Trent Williams, I think that keeps you up there pretty solid. The receiving core, I think the receiving core could hang with anyone. They have guys like Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings coming into his own, and then their tight end, easily top 2 tight end, probably not number 2. And then you go defense. Their defensive line, the best defensive line unit in the NFL, in my opinion. Their secondary isn't up there.
I put secondary probably at around average, meaning cornerbacks. If you add the safeties to it, it's definitely probably a little above average given how prolific Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt are. So yeah.
Yeah, they're safe. Like I was saying, their secondary it's above average. So kind of pushes you up there. And then their linebacking core, in my opinion, is top 5, depending on who's playing. It doesn't matter who's playing alongside Fred Warner. When you have the best linebacker in football, you pair them along anyone, and they look good. So you put all those pieces together. I think they are a top 5 team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I agree because the 49ers, I mean, apart from the quarterback position, it seems like they're just dominating every other facet in the NFL. And they're peaking at the right time, which is going to be exciting because they've got a Cowboys team at home. And I think they're going to be ready for this matchup.
I absolutely agree with you. I think they're definitely going to be ready. I think Kyle's going to have his team ready.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're probably going to host a live space as well Saturday before Sunday's game. So if you guys want to catch us then. But Marco and I tuning off. Thank you guys for watching.